Philadelphia Flyers podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Collington, and joining me today, it's Kevin Durso. How are you, buddy?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. No pre-log today because the Flyers are the number one seed.
Yeah, I mean, let's just cut to the chase.
There's
Don't
no
bury
burial of the lead here. The Flyers defeated the Washington Capitals on Thursday and the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday, going 3-0 in the round robin and becoming the number one seed in the East, which means that they will have home ice advantage all throughout the playoffs. But in hockey, that does actually matter, right? Like even minus the crowd, there is an advantage to being the home team.
You know, last change for one. I mean, you want to be able to match the lines going against, and you get to do it for 4 out of the 7 games you'll play against any team from here on out. I mean, even down to let's put it this way, even down to Vegas is the top seed in the West, and by virtue of that, the Flyers had the better regular season points percentage over Vegas. They would have home for the rest of it. They're honestly really sitting pretty. I mean,
for the rest of what, Kevin? Are you implying that they might be playing hockey?
Well, that if it went that far,
late September, early October.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm
excited,
and as you should be. I mean, honestly, as everybody should be. I mean,
it's time to get fired up.
You know, I think we teetered on that line of trying to cross over a little bit, you know, like trying not to get too excited, trying to recognize that maybe this was just, you know, I think we sat there every time we come on, we'd sit there and say, it's a great day. The Flyers are good. You know, maybe we need to start changing the word.
It feels a little real. It feels a little more real now.
You know, maybe we need to start changing the word from good to this is a really good team. This is a very special team, I think.
I'm ready for the Flyers to break my heart again.
I mean, and it very well could happen.
And I think it's time, and I hope it doesn't. But I'm at the point where I'm ready to dive full blown in on this team, be all in. And if they lose, if Patrick Kane scores in overtime in another eerily quiet building, by the way, I'm ready for the pain. And I say that as a lifelong Philadelphia fan who watched Joe Juravicius run down the sidelines in 2004. Like, I've put in my time.
You know, someone told me the other day, or like after once the game was over, I was upstairs. I go upstairs, and my family's around, so my brothers-in-law are hanging out and stuff like that. And one of them turns around and says, "What if we played Chicago again in the Cup final? Like, what if it was that? What if they got all the way there and it's Chicago and they get revenge for the 10 years ago?" And I went.
Man.
I even said, if you think and of course this is someone who's thinking it because of the fact that Chicago's a 12 seed. What if a 12 seed got to the Stanley Cup?
We all predicted the Edmonton Oilers in 3. There's no way.
Oh, we'll get into that later.
Yeah, we sure will.
I want to start with this then, because I thought this up late last night because I started to go back in time.
You pitched this before the show, and you didn't read to me what it was, but you told me you came up with it at 1:45 in the morning. So I'm certainly
no, it was finally typed out in Twitter at 1:45. I was thinking about this a little bit beforehand, and you got to remember something. I think the game ended at about 11 because it started at 8:20. You know, thanks NBC, 8:20 puck drop. You know,
get used to it. The Flyers are going to be in prime time a lot.
Oh, well, that's true, and look. There's nothing wrong with that. I liked being
that 8:20 puck drop, baby.
I definitely liked the 8 o'clock start time. Nothing against the earlier games, and Sunday afternoon at 3 was great. Thursday afternoon at 4 was a little weird, and
I liked it.
But I liked it too.
Work. I actually missed the first period, but I really like that 4 o'clock time.
I liked Thursday at 4 for the end. You know, because you're over, it's done, and by 7 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting here 8 o'clock, and I'm done, and I get to sit back, and then there was another game on.
And there's another game.
Or actually, I believe at that point in time it was still multiple. There were 2.
And you don't have to work for that. You get to just be a fan.
I sit back at that point, and I sit back at that point in time, and you enjoy a drink, and you have a good time, and you sit back and chill. You know?
Watch playoff hockey, because the hockey that we saw this week, by the way,
sure,
there were some moments. Obviously, every team's still a little rusty and 5 months off, and blah blah blah. But overall, I think we saw a lot of really, really, really good hockey this week.
I think we saw a lot of really good hockey, and it's going to be weird to say, and we'll get into we're going to go into the other series later, but I find it weird because I looked at a lot of them, and we'll touch on my terrible predictions later
A lot
in
of
the
these
show.
predictions were terrible. I had a pretty decent record because I like calling underdogs.
And in fairness, I guess I shouldn't feel too bad when I saw Greg Wyshynski was tweeting out all the ESPN predictions.
They're all
and
just
some
bombed.
of them were all over the place. I mean, everybody was not really having a great.
I think I saw the Athletics picks, and 18 of 19 picked the Penguins.
Well, ESPN had 14 of 14.
Okay,
I think,
yeah.
or maybe there was like one who picked Montreal.
Sorry, Pittsburgh.
No,
we're not. No, we're not.
But nonetheless, I mean, we'll get into that. But still, I came on. I guess it was 2 weeks ago, right before the playoffs would have started, or we knew the playoffs were starting that week, and said things like, this is going to be a tough series. I'm thinking 5, and we only got 1 5-game series out of the whole thing.
And at time of recording, we don't actually know. The puck drop for Game 5 of Columbus-Toronto will be at 8:00, right when this podcast drops on iTunes, Google Podcasts, all your podcast services as well as YouTube.
And by the time you listen to it on sportstalkphilly.com, you're going to know who the winner is, but that's not a big deal. We're here to talk about the Flyers first and foremost. So
absolutely.
For that part of it, because we have a lot of stuff.
So the Philadelphia Flyers outscored the top 3 seeds in the East 11-3 over their 3 games.
Right.
These weren't 2-1 close game, blah, blah. The Flyers every game kind of followed the same pattern, right? First period's a little, From the second period on, Alain Vigneault makes his adjustments, and the Flyers generally dominate the second and third, going on to an easy victory. And that kind of happened all 3 times, copy-pasted over the 3 games we had. Yeah,
I mean, the third period of the Tampa game worried me because the longer you sustain the zone time, the more likely it was. I mean, Tampa was the team that I thought played the hardest game out of the 3.
Absolutely.
I felt like Boston looked rusty and then just got swallowed up by the Flyers defense.
Yeah.
Washington, I don't know if it was a rust factor. I think that was just – I mean, I've watched that game 3 other times this year. I mean, 2 of them at home, that they looked decent in. I mean, the Flyers lost their first game to Washington in a shootout this year and then came back and played 3 really good games. Kevin Hayes scores a shorthanded goal in the one that turns out to be the game winner. You go on the road twice at a time when you're chasing them in the playoff race in the standings, trying to maybe win a division. And what do you just go out and you dominated them. I mean, 7-2 and then 5-2 on the road.
Yeah. And I believe for that 5-2 game, were the Capitals not leading the league at that moment?
Not by that point.
That wasn't them.
No, the January game at home they were.
And I knew there was a game.
The January game at home, they played Washington. This was the interesting part too. They played Washington and won. Played Tampa and lost 1-0. Played Boston and won that crazy shootout game, and then played St. Louis and won in overtime. And in 3 of the cases, when they played Washington, when they played Boston, and when they played St. Louis, each time that team was the top team in the league because it moved around that quickly.
We talked about it on the show. It was crazy. The Flyers had like the weirdest run where they just played the best team in the league 3 games in a row.
Right.
They won 2 of them and played a really tight game with Tampa.
Well, and this is the thing about Tampa. That was the one for me. I mean, I said it on the air on 97.3 on Saturday afternoon. I saw 3 other people tweet it leading into the game, and we all used the same phrase. We said this was going to be the measuring stick. This is the one because this is the one team. I mean, it's not the only team in the Eastern Conference that they have not been able to beat yet, by the way. Because I saw somebody say that, and that's not true. They actually this year they never beat the Islanders this year, actually, believe it or not. But there's also something about this team now. Like I think that
it's the one team.
Well, and here's the thing: the one game that they lost against the Islanders, they come back from down 3-0. They tied it, and then they gave it away because they couldn't clear the puck out in the next possession, and that was probably the toughest loss of the last. Well, last 8 months then I guess because I can't even think of a tough one from January. Honestly, no. I can't.
The team has been cruising, and I'm really impressed with how cohesive the team looks.
Well, sure, absolutely.
A lot of these passes are tape to tape, stretch passes, blah blah. Like things are looking really, really good.
So I don't want to get too far into the show without getting to what I actually teased at the beginning because this will tie in well. You're saying, look how cohesive this team is. They just beat the 3 top teams in the Eastern Conference to then take the top seed. All that stuff.
Definitely.
Let's go back in time for a minute. Because let's just look at the progression, how quickly this has happened. 622 days ago, it was November 26, 2018, and Ron Hextall got fired.
And I said, by the way, on the show after he got fired, which, by the way, was our first show back because Ron Hextall got fired 24 hours after Mike and I ended the original run of the show, by the way, because we always miss the news. One of the first shows back, I said that when the Flyers make their deep run and do the thing, I'm not going to say it yet. I'll say it at some point in this show.
That is one of the only acceptable times I've heard "do the thing," by the way, because I can't stand that phrase normally, but I'll take it for that. We're being vague about it.
When they do the thing,
Uh-huh.
Ron Hextall will not get the credit he deserves.
Well, interestingly enough, so let me continue through this
Go ahead.
timeline really quick, because that was that. So a week later, 615 days ago, December 3rd, 2018, Chuck Fletcher gets hired.
Okay.
601 days ago, December 17th, 2018, is Dave Haxtell gets fired.
Oh, okay, Dave Haxtell.
No, but you're just about there because
what about when Joel Quenneville got hired and that news story broke and that was definitely actually happening for about 12 hours.
Yeah, no, that wasn't the case at all, right? Well, hey, think about it for a minute. Let's ask everybody, what's Joel Quenneville doing right now, by the way? We'll get into it later. But we know. Everybody should already know.
Golfing.
Well, I mean, some of these guys are doing that anyway in the bubble.
Fair.
I mean, they're finding a way to do that, but that's not the point.
Okay, 601 days ago, Dave Haxtell.
But you were just about on it then. So
right.
This might be my favorite one. 600 days ago. And Carter Hart made his NHL debut 600 days ago, and he just won you a game or helped you win a game that gets the number 1 seed. Think about it. In 600 days, he's gone from first NHL game to winning a playoff game that got you the number 1 seed.
He's about to open game 1 at home for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
And to finish off the timeline, 482 days ago, April 15th, 2019, Alain Vigneault was hired by this team. And in that little span of time, about just over 600 days, they've gone from GM fired, coach fired, bringing up the rookie goaltender who's 19, 20 years old at the time.
Remember how much of a dumpster fire this team was 620 days ago?
That's the point. 622 days ago, this team didn't have any sense of direction.
Dumpster fire.
Right.
Everything was burning. I heard trade the captain more than ever.
Exactly.
And not even necessarily because of him or his on ice or blah, 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 just because everything was burning.
Yep.
The rainforest was burning, man. The whole thing was coming down. It was bad.
And I think the thing that's most impressive, I've said this several times, when Alain Vigneault got hired and we watched the start of this season, I had said, you're going to find out everything you need to know about this roster right now. If they don't get it together under him, they wouldn't get it together under anybody. And heads are going to roll as a result. And it's going to be players this time. It's not going to be the coach. It's not going to be the GM. You already changed that. And if that didn't work, then it's the players. And you're going to find out. And we found out now it's not the players.
No.
To an extent. I mean, there's new faces. And there's been, a lot of improvements made. But something about this team, it's not just injecting youth into it and things like that. It was, Alain Vigneault had to get them to put it all together in the right way. And they come out motivated every single time. And they come out and play a game. At any point during this round robin, did they come out and play, whether it was Boston, Washington, Tampa Bay, especially by the time the Tampa Bay game happened? Did they come out and did you go, no shot today?
I stopped feeling like the Flyers don't have a shot to win a game in about mid-November.
Okay.
Even the California road trip made me question it.
Sure.
But even those games, the Flyers always had a chance. Every game they were coming in, they could play. They proved they could play with any team in the league. And they proved it early in the season and just kept proving it all year long. They might not always beat, the Tampas and the Bostons and, that, struggle game against Washington we talked about early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But we talk about the big bad game against Pittsburgh, the 7-2, whatever, when we got our doors blown off. But beyond that, this team played with the top teams in the league all year.
All the time, yeah.
All year. I hope they don't play down to the 12 seed because we now know that they will be playing the Montreal Canadiens in the first round. I hope that they continue playing the disciplined, focused hockey that they've been playing and that they don't get caught in Montreal's wild, crazy up and down, speed game that they have. But we'll see. But as of right now, this team has been absolutely stellar against high-level opponents.
Right. I think there's two things that come to mind when I think, because you're talking about worry about playing down. There's two things I think that help them avoid that. One is having to play 3 meaningful games already. You knew that there was the only way you were going to even get this matchup is you had to go out and play to win to some extent. Even if you didn't play the most optimal lineup all the time, you still had to go out and play to win, and you did.
And Elaine Vigneault said as much, basically.
Right. And the bottom line is, if you go out and you have to have something to play for, like it wasn't like these were just all 3 tune-up games and let's get it over with.
These were not preseason games.
These were not preseason games. No. I mean, once you got past a certain point, these were not preseason games.
Absolutely not.
The
Boston one maybe a little bit.
But the Boston one had a little bit of a feel to it, but they also dominated it more because of the way that the game ended, everything like that. I felt like that was at least much more of a dominating effort than it was, hey, this looks like just a preseason game and it doesn't look like much. The Washington game looked very legit, and playing Tampa I think gave you the most legitimate pushback. That's probably the areas. The other area where I think this helps is, you're not playing this series for no reason at this point. Montreal pulled off an upset. Let's just get right to the chase on it. They
Absolutely.
pulled off
I think
an
it's time
upset.
to start talking about Montreal here.
But if you think that there's not the possibility that anybody can win, Montreal was not just the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference. They were the 24th ranked points percentage team. They're the last ones in this tournament.
So wait,
virtually.
An underdog Montreal Canadiens team beats a highly regarded Pittsburgh team and then has to play Philadelphia when Philadelphia. Wait, I've seen this before. Hold on. I know how this works. We already played Yaroslav Halak. Wait a minute.
Boy, there's
I'm making reference to 2010 when the Philadelphia.
No, I know you are.
No, I know you are. I know you know. The Philadelphia Flyers hosted the Montreal Canadiens as the Flyers were the 7th seed. Montreal was the 8th seed in the conference finals. First time it's ever happened.
There's so much irony to that, though. I mean, this round robin starts with the Yaroslav Halak in goal in the opposition. You beat him 4 times to win that game. There's something to be said about that. I mean, it's kind of funny how that worked into this discussion somehow. He's playing for Boston.
Shea Weber still on his Flyers contract from 2010 or 12, whenever that was.
So I'm reading. It's a cool thing you brought up Shea Weber here, because this is something that's kind of interesting to me. So I want to read this off to you because I just saw this on Twitter. So there's 9 players in the NHL who have played at least 30 minutes at 5-on-5 and been on the ice for at least 4 goals for and none against.
Huh.
I guess since the whole everything started back up, 6 of them are going to be playing in the Flyers Canadian series. Shea Weber, Arturi Lehkonen, Paul Byron, Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and then on the Flyers side, Phil Myers and Travis Sanheim.
Okay. Man,
very
talk about those two coming out of Philly. Travis Sanheim and Phil Myers.
This is the thing with the Flyers right now. Travis Sanheim leaves the game on Saturday for 8-9 minutes of game time. Yeah. I mean, it was early in the second, and he finally came back. It was mid to late second. Yes, it was something like that. So he left for a decent amount of time. Anybody who leaves on this team, it doesn't matter. I mean, this happened on Sunday. Michael Raffl leaves the game. We're going, oh, no, not Michael Raffl. Are you kidding?
Joel Farabee says, hold my water because I'm too young to drink beer.
Yeah, really.
Oh, wait, they're in Canada. Never mind. He's good.
Never mind. He's good. I mean,
hold my beer.
I don't think they're going to, being that everybody flew in and they're living hotel life, I don't think they're getting carded in Montreal anyway, or in Toronto anyway, I mean.
And I'm pretty sure Nico Hischier is out getting hacked. Oh, wait, never mind.
No,
they're not in the bubble. I forgot the Devils were bad.
I thought you did that on purpose.
No, I wish I had, but
I thought you were doing that on purpose. I mean, no, but I don't think Quinn Hughes is not worrying about it. That's
Quinn Hughes isn't worried about it. None of them.
I think they're all having a pretty good time.
Even the kids who came up, like Liam Foodie, is not worried about it.
Nah.
There you go. That's a much better example than Nico Hischier. Let's pretend I said that the first time.
I really thought you were just joking about it. Like, hey, here was that number 1 pick from a little while ago, from 3 years ago.
To be fair, Nolan's not exactly enjoying drinks in the bubble either. So
no, but I bet you he's enjoying watching his teammates do something pretty cool now.
I'm sure he is.
And again, I mean, you just went there. He's not part of this.
I know.
Nolan Patrick's not part of this.
Well,
Oscar
here's
Lindblom is not part of this.
Well, here's how I look at that. This Flyers team is already good.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point in the future, they'll get to pluck Nate Thompson out and put Nolan Patrick in that spot.
More than likely, yeah.
Hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully, Ron Hextall did a great job. I know, it's easy to pick. It's easy to pick Nolan Patrick.
Right, I was going to say Nolan Patrick fell into your lap, so that one was much easier. I mean,
talk about Oscar Lindblom.
Oscar Lindblom is one.
And by the way, I heard a rumor that he might be ready if they end up going to Edmonton.
Well, that's about the timeline that they're talking about.
Give him a couple of weeks for basically a camp.
Alain Vigneault turned around and said he was told September. So basically, I think the goal right now is get this thing to September.
Well, to be fair, we were also told like 2022. So if Alain Vigneault says September, Oscar says what, like Thursday? What are you, game 3? How long do I have to wait here? Because he's chomping at the bit, right? Oscar Lindblom's ready to go.
It's interesting because we're talking about Ron Hextall did a really good job, and it's the absolute truth. It's think about Connor Bunnaman had a couple good games, just being popped into the lineup. I mean, he comes in for James Van Riemsdyk in that game against Washington, doesn't look out of place, and then plays a solid enough game against. I mean, there's something to be said. You're not doing anything wrong if you're playing your minutes and not getting scored on.
When Michael Raffl comes back, who comes out?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who comes in. I don't know who comes in and out now.
This team probably has 15 forwards who deserve a spot.
I mean,
and there's only 12.
I mean, the dynamic of this and the dynamic I'm thinking of when it comes to this is that this is, you talked about Nate Thompson already, Derek Grant too.
Yeah.
These guys are on expiring contracts. They're trade deadline rentals essentially, but they're doing such a good job that you go, and here's the thing too. Do you want to line up your four centers as Couturier, Hayes, Patrick, and Frost? And Morgan Frost is your fourth line. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, no, I'm even talking about like more immediately for like these upcoming.
No, I know, but I'm saying like in the immediate. But see, in the immediate, you put Nate Thompson on the fourth line. You go, that makes all the sense in the world. He's a fourth line type of player. Nolan Patrick's not. Morgan Frost is not. You don't. They're not going to be guys like that. You've got this list of centermen that is talented, and you don't want to necessarily give it like I'd consider re-signing a guy like Derek Grant.
I would love for the Philadelphia Flyers to re-sign Derek Grant
because you need that guy. You need the guy who doesn't mind 10 minutes a night.
If you re-sign Derek Grant, I think that gives you the flexibility to put Morgan Frost on the wing. And I think that's going to have to happen. I think almost. Morgan Frost is probably a wing at the NHL level, but I think he's like one of those wings who you're not upset about if he's taking draws. Kind of like Braden Chen was for a couple of years there, where he's playing a lot of wing, but if your center gets kicked out, you're fine with him coming in to take your face off.
They do that a lot already. I mean, the top two lines are essentially it. Claude Giroux's playing left wing primarily.
The NHL is getting to the point where everybody just takes face-offs because everybody has to.
But you got to know. I think
coaches value it so much.
Yeah, you got to know how to do it.
Yeah, and we saw a couple years ago. We saw the NHL really increased the number of face-off violations.
Yeah,
right? We really saw the number of guys getting kicked out of the face-off dot going up. And at that point, you really saw NHL coaches prioritize having 2 guys on every line, especially in the defensive zone. Defensive zone face-off, you have to put 2 guys out there who can take draws.
Yeah.
You just have to, because there's like a 40% chance your guy's getting kicked out.
There's something to be said, though, for having – I mean, how many lines do the Flyers have? I think the third line's the only one I can think of that doesn't have it in the normal. When Couturier isn't going to be able to take the face-off, Giroux's on his left wing. Right. When Hayes isn't
sometimes even taking face-offs backhanded, by the way.
Right.
We saw that as part of the broadcast.
When Kevin Hayes isn't able to take the face-off, Scott Lawton's on his wing and had played center before. When Nate Thompson isn't able to take face-offs, Connor Bunnaman played center a little bit in the minors.
Right.
You've got that. At least you've got that experience. You've been a centerman, but you've also been,
You've drilled face-offs a little bit. You know what you're doing.
And Bunnaman used to do it. I think Bunnaman used to do it in juniors too. I think he was a center out of juniors and then converted because you kind of have to.
A lot of people come out of junior as a center. Mitch Marner came out of junior as a center.
And when you work as well as he does with Austin Matthews, then you learn to not be a center anymore, and you'll play wing most of the time, especially if you're going to get scoring opportunities out of it.
For the record, I think future Pittsburgh Penguin Alexis Lafreniere is also probably a wing at the NHL level.
He's already a natural left winger.
Yeah, but he played some center because Rimouski put their best player at center because that's what you do in junior levels, right? You put your guy, you give him the most ice time possible, and that's usually at center.
Yeah.
But we do want to touch on that. A couple of big upsets around the league,
Yeah,
right?
a couple.
We have the Flyers obviously going through. They'll play Montreal. The rest of the East is like pretty much hammered out, right? You got Carolina beating the Rangers in 3. Like at least one or two of us predicted. I know I was big on Carolina as part of that prediction. I don't know if it was 3, but
right. I mean, I was way off in that. I mean, I had Carolina too because I knew I liked their skill and I kind of could look past the goalies for that. But I said 5 because I thought that the Rangers had
would put up a little bit of a fight.
Well, not only just put up a little bit of a fight. I thought the Rangers had offense clicking at a certain point. I thought their top line was good and especially power play was good. And I think one of the big – I'm not going to say this cost in the game because we talked about this last week because we had a little bit of – I think everybody had played one game by that point or close to.
Yeah, there were games going on, yeah.
But nonetheless, one of them was Carolina and the Rangers, and we were surprised given the fact that Shesterkin couldn't go, that Lundqvist got the start. But we didn't deny Lundqvist was good in game 1.
Great, yeah.
Right. It wasn't on him, but I almost wonder if that didn't happen – if they find a rhythm in a different way, because they look.
And if Shesterkin just plays game 1 and they don't ever have to turn to Hank,
I think there was something about putting him into an elimination game as opposed to letting him play from the start in game 1.
He didn't really get a fair shake.
Like by the time they played that elimination game, which by the way was on a back-to-back day situation,
right?
Like they looked like they had nothing to match that team at all.
He played well. The team in front of them was defeated at that point. There was no jump left. They didn't have any sort of belief that they could come back and win this series. So he didn't really have a shot.
Yeah, and I mean, defensively, that was a mess. I mean, for them, they were not very good, and speed killed in that series. And that's how Carolina is dangerous. And Carolina, by having 3 games like that, Carolina is set up. About the only thing I don't like about this next series for Carolina is the fact that they finished on Tuesday.
Right.
And they've been sitting around for a week, and after not playing for months on end, to then sit around for a week isn't a good idea.
Probably not great, no.
Right. Like I just don't think that's good.
And they will play the loser of a round robin game that we have yet to see at time of recording, although it will start in about a half hour. So there might be about 25 minutes left in the show, just a heads up. But either way, Carolina makes it through, and they will play the loser of Boston, Washington here. And the way Boston's playing, I think Carolina beats them.
I was thinking that too.
Things change over a 7-game series, and Boston has all the resilience in the world and all the playoff experience in the world. But, man, Carolina looks like a wagon.
Here's what I'm going to say about that. If Boston looks good today, then I don't know how I feel. Like then I feel differently about them in a series because
if they kick into high gear today.
Well, because then I think there's something to be said for them playing a good game on Sunday and then starting on either Tuesday or Wednesday, and Carolina having a week off.
Well, if they play a good game on today on Sunday, they probably won't play them. They'll probably beat Washington at that point.
Well, that's
and then
true.
Washington will play them.
But I was having those thoughts even whether it was the Islanders or Carolina, because I had those thoughts.
Oh, no. See, I have the winner of this game who will get the Islanders. I'm sorry. The Islanders beat the Florida Panthers 3-1 in the Who Cares series. But the winner of today's round robin game will play that team, and I think either of those teams handles the Islanders easily. The fact that the Islanders are having this much trouble dispatching the Florida Panthers is concerning.
So, all right. So here's something else that I talked about with you, I think, before the show started. That I said there was a point about this Boston-Washington game and why it's important on the Flyers side.
Yeah.
If you're a Flyers fan, and let's just do this. Which of the two teams would worry you more?
Boston, Tampa?
No, Boston, Washington.
Boston, Washington. I'm sorry. Boston worries me more.
Okay. Then you should want Boston to win this game because – let's just say that after the first round, the entire top 4 moves on. That's your semifinal.
Oh, they reseed, don't they?
they'd reseed, but the seeding wouldn't really change
No,
anyway.
you're right. Yeah.
Because at that point in time, it's fine. But now the Flyers are going to play a series against Washington, who they've handled 4 out of 5 times this season already. And Tampa plays Boston, and they beat each other up. You set yourself up for the potential that at least, someone's going to play each other. You've played decently against Boston. You've proven you can play against Tampa.
Well, I suppose it's time for me to say this. I don't care who the Flyers play. I think they're beating everybody. I think I'm just going to say this. I don't know how far into the show we are. I don't have any sort of time marker to make up this. I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to win the 2020 Stanley Cup.
Okay.
There it is.
I mean,
I
can't go there yet. Here's where I can go. No, here's where I can go. First of all, for the first time in my entire time covering the team, going back to the 14-15 season, and a little bit beyond that too. Let's be honest about that. A little bit beyond that even. For the first time, no, not for me doing it, but let's go back a little further. Even.
Right. For
the first time in a long time, I'm going to say this out loud on the airways. I'm going to do it on my next spot on here too.
Oh, this is an exclusive, huh?
No. The Flyers are going to, no question about it. The Flyers are going to be a favorite in the playoff series.
Yes.
That hasn't happened in a long time. I mean, they've made playoff appearances, but were they favorited against the Rangers? Probably not. Were they favorites against Washington? Absolutely not. And were they favorites against Pittsburgh?
No.
Absolutely not. So they're going to be favorites in a playoff series.
Well, even if you go back to 2012, right? They lost to Washington in the second round?
New Jersey
in the second round. But
they probably were favored in that one because of the way they played. They were the road
because
team.
Of the Pittsburgh series?
They were the lower seed against Pittsburgh and then won so convincingly. People actually thought that they were going to then take the Jersey series.
Maybe you're right. Okay, I'd have to go back and look and see if they were favorites. But if they weren't, but if they weren't favorites there, you go back. They weren't favorites in the Pittsburgh series, and then going back to 2010, they weren't favorites in any of those series. So it goes back even further than that.
Yeah, I mean, the only one I think that they might have been considered a favorite in was when they played Montreal in 10.
Okay, that's fair.
By that point in time, after coming back against Boston, Montreal was in the lower seed than they were. It was a 7 against an 8, and everybody went.
And the Flyers came in steaming.
Right, and everybody kind of sat there and thought, I don't care what Montreal just did to make a run.
Right.
Look at what they just did with this comeback.
Philly just made history.
Right, they just made history. They look like destiny.
75 Islanders, 42 Maple Leafs.
Right.
We heard it all the time.
And it kind of did. It looked like and felt like destiny at that point in time that they just pulled off the most incredible comeback we've ever seen.
Definitely.
And now they're going to play the 8th seed to go to the Stanley Cup final.
Insane.
I think that they should be favorites in that series, and then they won it in 5 anyway. I mean,
absurdity.
I mean, if they weren't favorites going into it, when they played Game 1 and won 6-0,
the Eastern Conference bracket in 2010 was insane.
Outrageous.
The way it all broke down was insane. It might be nearly as insane as this year's playoffs.
Okay, so that's the first thing that I will say then is that they're definitely going to be favorites in this series.
Okay, I like it.
Here was the other thing, and I did say this on the air yesterday, so before the Saturday game, so it's not as much of an exclusive. I did say the words when it came to Flyers Tampa. This could be an Eastern Conference final preview.
It could. I think it might be.
And it felt believable. It feels, and let's put it this way. It's not lost on me. The Boston game and the Tampa game technically count as road games.
Sure.
You didn't know, but you didn't you didn't get the last change. You didn't get to match up the right way. And granted, there's different things to each game.
And for the record, those are the two games that Carter Hart played. If we want to talk about Carter Hart on the road,
that's true.
That's gone.
There is a merit to Boston was a little shorthanded coming in. Obviously, Tuukka Rask didn't get to play, and that's a big deal.
Washington was a little shorthanded, too, on Thursday with John Carlson missing the game.
Yeah, but Washington, to me, always, even with John Carlson, John Carlson did not have the greatest defensive year.
I agree.
He was an offensive dynamo. But
factually, they were missing a big part of their team, and I got to throw that out there.
And you can't deny the fact that the Flyers just played Tampa for 50 to 55 minutes without Victor Hedman.
And Steven Stamkos for the whole game.
Yeah, but Stamkos was out, so was Voracek. That was a little bit of a dynamic that was – I'm not saying I compare the players, but I'm saying both teams were missing somebody significant.
They were both missing a huge offensive piece.
Right. They were both missing somebody significant. And Stamkos has missed games against the Flyers before where they've struggled anyway. That one, to me, the forward depth that they have, too, doesn't, Stamkos being out, they can make up for it. Like they've done it before. It's not nearly as big of a deal as you just lost your perennial Norris Trophy finalist defenseman for the entire game because he twisted an ankle the wrong way.
And by the
trying
way,
to get back in a position on a rush by, coming the other way. Tyler Pitlick coming into the zone.
Yeah, and we do want to wish Victor Hedman the best and hope he doesn't miss any time because that it looked okay, but it's one of those things that sort of twisting thing is always scary. When you catch an edge while you're turning around.
I see, and I was like, I don't know that it looked okay because I didn't see it.
Okay,
I didn't see it in the moment. I didn't see it even on the replays on TV. I watched the replay videos later on, and I saw the motion that they were talking about, and it's
not great.
It's that motion that you just don't want to see.
It's that high ankle sprain.
Yep.
And you just see it, and you just see his whole.
And I hope that I hope it's not terribly serious.
I hope he's not missing any time. I really do because Tampa's a much more fun team to watch with Victor Hedman in the lineup. And I because we don't have to play him for a month. Yeah, you can have Victor Hedman back. Yeah, sure.
Well, and here's the thing. I don't think that the third period goes the way it does if Hedman's playing. I mean,
I think you're right.
I mean, they don't get that. I mean, who was shooting from the blue line once the goalie's pulled and you're in the final 5 minutes and they're pressing pretty hard before that empty net goal. It's not Hedman giving you that crazy blast. And Hedman does the other thing Hedman does when it comes to that shot. He creeps in sometimes from the blue line. If you can start to get them to drift backwards toward the net, he creeps in and he wants to take it from the top of the circle and give you almost an Ovechkin style. Here comes the boom.
He's really good. Like he doesn't necessarily get the offensive credit that he deserves. He's good handling the puck. He's more than just a big beefy defenseman, which he is. But he's got that puck handling. He's a lot of fun to watch. Yeah, and
there's a reason he's a Norris finalist all the time. There's just a reason for it. He's that good, and he makes them better, and he contributes. It feels like almost every time the Flyers play them, he contributes offensively in some way. Like it
Definitely.
Really does.
Victor Hedman's definitely a huge piece of that team for sure.
But nonetheless, back to the rest of the team for a minute. I mean, wasn't it nice to see? Let's put it this way. What are you thinking when? How many minutes into the game was it? 3,
when
4?
Kucherov's bearing down.
When Kucherov got a breakaway?
Carter Hart and a breakaway?
I mean, listen this way. There's a difference between, and it happened in the Washington game as well. There's guys who get breakaways that after seeing them enough, they know how to handle that situation.
Right.
And at that critical point of I think it was the second period for the Flyers against Washington, it's Jacob Vrana, late second period. You're up 2-0. The last thing you want to do is have the Boston game over again, and you're up 2-0, and you give up a goal, and you don't know that you're going to get it back 9 seconds later or 8 seconds later, right?
Right.
The last thing you want is to give up a goal in the final 2 minutes against Washington and give them an idea that this is possible, right?
Right. Let Washington go into a room.
And Vrana knows what he's doing. I thought Vrana was probably their best player in the game.
He played really well.
He had the highest scoring. I definitely think he had the highest quality scoring chances.
Yeah, he played a good game
compared to the rest. And Brian Elliott makes a save. But again, the same thing happens. Matt Niskanen turnover. Here goes Kucherov, and you're going, oh no!
That was a bad turnover.
It was a bad turnover.
It wasn't a good pass.
Not only is it a guy who can handle the situation. This is a guy who doesn't even have to shoot the puck to score on those situations.
He can do the little fake thing.
He just fakes people out. And
he went 5-hole and Carter Hart had it.
He went 5-hole, but I think the other thing he did is that at one point in time, he got somewhere at a certain point when you're going in there, you either decide you're going to make the move or you're just going to take the shot. And I don't think that Carter Hart tipped off that he was going to make the first move. And that made Kucherov go, I got to try to just do quick release. Just got to get rid of it. And he just tried to snap it through the 5-hole before he could steal it off. And he sealed it off.
In the leveling game, Carter Hart won that round. Right?
Sure.
He had the positioning. He had the location.
And it's funny because right before they did actually score the one goal that they got, which was on the power play, there was that situation. The cross ice, Kucherov's waiting for the one-timer at the circle, and Hart got over and made the save. And he gave up a goal maybe 10 seconds later.
Right.
But that was off of – it actually was a strange play because Provorov gets pulled off of the play just a little bit, and he almost loses his footing. He almost kind of has a Hedman moment there where the skate sticks a little.
It looks bad on the replay. He looks like he's all by himself out in the middle of nowhere.
Right. Well, the reason he's by himself is not because of Provorov. Niskanen went behind the net for whatever reason. and cuts away from that guy because Provorov's trying to spot the guy in the corner, and he loses his footing slightly. That creates space. You make one pass, you get it in front, it's in the net.
It's one of those things. Tampa's going to punish you for that 100 times out of 100.
And I thought Tampa was going to punish them anyway because I thought that because Kubel played a great game.
Yes.
And was around the net a lot, 2 goals, obviously.
For sure.
And I think that was shades of the Washington game, by the way, because against Washington, I thought both he and Farabee could have either scored at least once, probably could have had at least 2 points each.
Nicholas Kubel has looked fantastic.
Right. But I thought it was a bad penalty to take at that time. Like, you just got out of a penalty kill to begin with, and you're going to take a penalty for that.
You can't kill another one right now.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can't just go in and cross-check a guy who's along the boards. Like, you just can't do it. And, I mean, there were others that could have been called. There were others that could have been called in the game. It's funny too, because I know Wes McCauley had the game last night, and that was the same. I believe it was the same crew that had the Boston game, and it felt like a relatively clean game. I mean, the Flyers got 3 power plays, but the last one happened with 10 seconds left. I think something like that. There was right before they finished it off. There was a scrum, and they got a guy out of that. One of them, and look at the other 2 penalties that Tampa took. One's an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty because a guy drops his gloves.
Undisciplined by Blake Coleman.
Right. No. This wasn't the Coleman one. I think that was Bogosian dropped his gloves.
Bogosian. I'm sorry.
To go after Lawton for no reason at all. And,
there was no penalty on the play.
There was no penalty on the play. And they go ahead and,
I thought they were calling the hit. And I was actually actively, come on, Scott. If they're calling the hit, stand up for yourself here a little bit. And then I saw that I realized they weren't calling it. I went, oh, good job, Scotty. Okay.
The Coleman penalty was interesting because Coleman gets called for goalie interference. The scoring chance that came off that, by the way, I don't know about you watching it on TV the way I obviously have to because there's no in-person for me anymore.
Right.
It looked like he almost directed it in with his hand or tried to. Like the chance almost bounced off. I thought it had bounced off his glove. And if it was off his glove and he's pushing his hands forward, that probably shouldn't count.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things.
I mean, it didn't matter because Hart made a save on it.
Right.
And actually, the best part of the clip for me is the overhead that shows he's getting bumped into and his glove hand is sticking out and the puck is just sitting there and he just squeezes it closed like, I still got it. Don't worry about it. I still got the puck in my glove, guys. Actually, I mean, the most impressive save that he probably made, all things considered, was Braden Point had one late in the game.
Yeah.
He looks down and out. Braden Point should be able to roof that top corner.
Every time.
And make it a 1-goal game.
Braden Point scored that goal 30 times this year.
And that should make it a 1-goal game with about a minute and a half left.
And you're pushing.
And
all of a sudden you're pushing.
I think it was right after that they scored the empty net goal. It didn't take long after. It was really close to that.
Take the following sentence and copy paste it for the next decade. Carter Hart made a great save in a clutch situation.
I mean, he's this is what we've come to see from him all the time. This is who he is.
And the guy he's drawn a lot of comparisons to will be across the ice from him in just a couple of days, right? He's drawn a lot of comparisons to Carey Price. Student meet teacher. Let's go.
Let's talk about this series for a minute here because here's the
we
thing.
have to.
There's a ton of storylines that I find very fascinating about this series. The first one being exactly what you just said.
Shea Weber, obviously.
Well, no. The first thing being exactly what you just said.
Flyers legend Shea Weber for 5 days in 2014. Well,
that's true. But the first one being exactly what you just said. Here's Carter Hart,
the protege.
And by the way, his birthday is this week.
Yeah, happy birthday.
He turns 22 this week. Quite possibly, because what was it going to be? I think it's Thursday is the 13th.
The second best birthday story of this show, because the first best birthday story of this show is the fact that Sidney Crosby's birthday was the day that the Pittsburgh Penguins got eliminated. Happy birthday, Sid.
Yeah.
Sorry, moving on. Carey Price, Carter Hart.
So Carter Hart's birthday is Thursday, which, by the way, given the structure of the series,
probably be game two.
Game 2.
Probably be game 2 because I imagine the Flyers will be playing on Tuesday. We don't know at time of recording. We might very well know No, we won't know because
they're going to wait until that. Yeah, they're going to wait until then. So
also, before we get out of here, I need an official draft lottery prediction because that's tomorrow night, by the way.
Yeah. You might get a schedule late night Sunday once the game is over.
The game's over, right?
But I could almost even see it because Monday is a mandatory day off from games anyway. They're not playing any games. They're probably let's just wait. There will be practices, and I know there will be because as I'm sitting here at time of recording, the Flyers are off today.
Right.
So they will practice tomorrow for whenever game 1 is.
It's time to prep for Montreal for sure.
Right. There will be because there's no, the only way I even know this usually is there's no media availability. So when there's no media availability, it means it's a complete off day. They're just they're sitting back, probably enjoying bubble life and the fact that they're number 1 seeds. That's probably all they're sitting there doing.
They're sitting at Hotel X in Toronto ordering room service today.
Did you see the little intermission clip? It was not during the Flyers game. It was during the Colorado Vegas game where they followed Tyson Jost around and he was showing people a little bit about the hotel.
No.
Okay, he kind of did. So they've got like pool decks, and apparently every team has one because they're all on different floors or something like that.
Crazy.
So there's a pool deck. The front of the arena at Rogers Center, because he's in Edmonton, so he wasn't showing Toronto. But in Edmonton, they're playing the game off of like a giant projector on the side of the building.
So all the guys in their pools are just.
So they're watching it from the pool deck, watching it on the side of the building. That's looks insane. Awesome. I mean, it was really cool.
That's their version of the drive-in watch party.
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean, and there was a couple because Carolina put a couple videos out from wherever their hotel is, and they're just chilling by the pool, getting some sun, having a good, having a drink, having a good day. I mean, they were enjoying the time off a little bit, and I guess the time after practice too. I mean, you get to sit back and watch anything at that point. How many games are? It's funny though. Most of them are like while they're doing stuff like that. That's kind of normal hotel life on the road. Period.
Anyway, right? It's just like they're on the California trip, or
right? Like we've got a day off on a West Coast trip. Let's do the pool for a day. Let's just chill. Let's just chill out for a little bit. Let's go out.
Order room service.
Right. Let's get a meal. I mean, there's restaurants also within the thing, so they're like able to eat out, so to speak. So it's let's go get let's go get a meal. Let's do this. I mean, it's pretty cool how they have it set up.
Yeah, for sure. But
so with that in mind, like you're in these cities and everything like that, and while you're trying to get through it, so Montreal and Pittsburgh play their series, and you could just sense. We talked about that series, by the way, as a talk about stealing games, right? We talked a little bit about stealing games, and I definitely believe that in game 1.
Yes, Carey Price stole game 1 from the Pittsburgh Penguins. 100%.
Games 3 and 4, I'm not so sure I believe it.
Game 4, he played really well.
Oh,
he played good in both games. I think he was good enough in game 4 that they don't win that game if they have a league average goaltender.
Here's the problem I have with saying he stole game 4.
Okay.
The goalie doesn't steal game 4 to me when the whole team gets 21 shots against you, and there didn't look like there was the urgency.
No.
At the end that you expect from that team.
No, for sure.
Something just wasn't right about them. And I don't know if it's how many months you didn't play.
That looked a lot like a team that knows they're getting the first overall pick.
I don't know. I mean, I can't go into that type of stuff. Everybody's going to have the same chance. And you do have the dynamic of one team that has had the number 1 pick a lot recently and one team that had it a couple of times over the course of a decade and a half ago that turned it into 3 players. Well, and one of them wasn't a first overall pick. Malkin wasn't a first overall pick, but he was a second.
He was second behind Ovi. Oh,
right.
Man.
Like, bottom line is they've had top 2 picks 3 times over the course of whatever number of years, a decade and a half ago, and it got you your top 2 centers.
Two of them are in the top. Well, yeah, it's crazy. It's it's not fair. Okay,
yeah, I hear you.
We got Nolan Patrick who has headaches.
Yeah, right.
And again, it's nothing against Nolan, sorry, buddy, but like, come on.
Well, anyway, I digress with that.
No, I know. But either way, while we're here, let's get your draft lottery prediction, right?
Oh, God.
So right now, I'm going to read off the teams that are currently lined up to pick. The Pittsburgh Penguins, the New York Rangers, the Florida Panthers, the Edmonton Oilers, the Nashville Predators. That's a fun one.
Yeah, it is a fun one.
The Minnesota Wild. That's a fun one. And the Winnipeg Jets, who don't need more forwards. And then also the loser of Toronto Columbus tonight. And by the way, yesterday's game was huge. The Tampa game against the Flyers Tampa game was actually huge. Because as we knew this by game time, but the winner is going to play Montreal. The loser has the 2 seed, but then has to play either Toronto or Columbus.
Right.
And honestly, Man,
Is there a team from that series that you want to play?
well, first and foremost, I'm certainly glad that the Flyers don't have to play either.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, is there a team from that you want to play where
But
before they
no.
have to go through a series against another team at least?
No, I mean, I would look at same thing I said in our prediction show. I look at Columbus and I don't see playoff goaltending. I just don't.
Okay.
Out of Jonas Korpisalo and Elvis Merzlikins, I don't see playoff quality goaltending. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they prove me wrong. Elvis Merzlikins has been proving people wrong all year. I will happily eat crow if he shuts out the Tampa Bay Lightning in 3 games next series. But I just look there and I don't see good playoff goaltending. So I would rather face Columbus later on down the road. But obviously the Flyers aren't going to have to play either team. And by the time you have to play one of these teams, so much has changed. You know, once you go through war once, you're a whole different team going into the next series, generally speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And that does actually tie me back because we were talking earlier about the depth the Flyers has. And I talked about the fact that probably 15 forwards on this team deserve roster spots. One thing that does for the Flyers is it gives you some flexibility. It allows you, you know, if Jake Voracek has to miss another game, somebody can slot in. And you're using these spots. And as playoffs go on, guys accrue injuries and things add up. And, you know how it is. It's 2 months of hell. And the fact that the Flyers basically have a whole extra line to come and sub in is going to be valuable because a lot of teams don't have that. Not to the level that the Flyers do.
Yeah, so, all right, so let me tie back to where I was going before this. So
Yeah.
Some of the interesting storylines from this Flyers Canadiens
It's a very
series.
tangential podcast today.
Yeah, so one of them, obviously, we already talked about with the Carter Hart Carey Price story because, like we said, it's his birthday this week. This is the goalie he grew up idolizing. This is also a goalie that stylistically and mentally, all of that, he's been compared to numerous times. The way he approaches the way he approaches the game, then the way he plays the game, his positioning, all that stuff. He gets compared to him an awful lot, and that right there. Not only that, but now this is his first playoff series, and that's the goalie at the other end. And we've seen what Carey Price can do against Pittsburgh. Obviously, we've already seen that. That's one.
Yeah, he's no slouch. But like you said, he didn't really steal games 3 and 4.
And this is more of a testament to the defense than anything. Shea Weber is a bit of a storyline. Not as much for I don't think the Flyers. The brief time the Flyers offer sheeted him is not the reason, but he looked really good. And how many years ago? Like what was it? A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, that we were wondering if his career was over.
Yep.
Because he the injuries were too much. He's become very effective. The pause, I'm sure, helped him. The 5 months definitely. Off have helped him.
Montreal is one of those teams. I think the pause really benefited them because I feel like they, more than any other team, they're a team of two opposites. All their guys are 22 or 34.
Mm-hmm.
And with this kind of break, the young guys get to do basically a full off-season reset, and the old guys get to rest.
Mm-hmm.
So they come back, and a huge percentage of their roster has been positively affected by the pause. Whereas guys like the Flyers, Claude Giroux, 31, 32, kind of in that realm where the break probably hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Same with Jake Voracek, Kevin Hayes, kind of a lot of the Flyers' big core. But with a team like Montreal, they got a lot of rest for both their young guys and their old guys, and they've come out really strong. And you mentioned that Shea Weber benefited from the pause. I think Carey Price benefited from the pause.
Oh, I'm sure he did too.
Because
if you're a veteran, a veteran player, yeah.
He is so used to playing 1 billion games a year because there's nobody else in Montreal, and he's the only way they win games. So they run him out there 65 times a year.
Oh, and by the way, guess who else has a birthday coming up?
Is he Carey Price?
Carey Price is the 16th. Carter Hart is the 13th.
Oh, no.
Carey Price turns 33 on in a week. Next Sunday.
If the NHL does any back-to-backs in the first round, which I don't know if they're going to do, but if they do any back-to-backs in the first round, they could easily play on Carter Hart's birthday and Carey Price's birthday. That could be games 2 and 4 or
2 and 5 or whatever.
Right. Or no, it wouldn't be 5.
Can't be 5. Yeah, 5 be 2 soon.
It would probably be game 4. It could happen.
I mean, Yeah, you
right?
could
Because
see
they would
game.
play on the 13th and have off the 14th and then play like 15, 16 or
Mm,
something like that. But
I
either
don't know.
way,
I don't know if I can
crazy.
see that as much, but okay. So let's go. Let's play a little game here with connections on
Okay.
this roster. Okay. First
Oh,
of
oh
all,
no. Okay.
First of all, there's 3 former Flyers on the roster.
Wait, let me see if I can.
One of them who played regularly, one of them who was, and 2 of them who were a healthy scratch for the clincher against Pittsburgh.
Dale Weiss,
Dale Weiss is on the roster.
Jordan Wheel,
Jordan Wheel is on the roster.
and is it Nick Cousins?
No, Nick Cousins is
No, he
on
got
Vegas
traded.
now.
He was in. Wait, don't tell me. He was in Montreal.
He was in Montreal. That's correct.
And who was it? All right. I'm not getting it. Who is it?
Oh, because it's such a forgotten name, and it didn't even.
Was it someone who was here like several years ago?
No, it
Is
wasn't.
it like
It
Luke
was
Shen?
no. Luke Shen was a scratch last night for Tampa.
Yeah.
No,
All right.
Christian Folan.
Oh yeah, whatever. Sure. He went back to Montreal. Whatever.
I just think it would be funny if they all played in a game at one point in time.
It
And
would
this
be
is,
funny.
and you're looking at the team now. And we're going, well, look how far they've come from this, and look
And
how
that-
far they've come from this, and then you're going to play a team that has those. I mean, let's remember something here for a minute. Dale Weiss aside and Christian Folan aside, there was a time when people here were excited about Jordan Wheel and thought he had potential to be part of the future, right?
I did. When he was coming off his big season in the AHL, he came up and he came to Philly. He was really starting to. I liked how Jordan Wheel buzzed around. I was pretty disappointed that they got rid of him as cavalierly as they did. But yeah, I'm not really all that worried about him like burning the Flyers in a playoff series.
No. I'm not saying that at all. It's more or less,
I don't think it's going to be one of those things where, I'm going to get this team for trading me away.
No. I'm saying it more from a sense of we have watched a lot of years of hockey watching this team in the way that they were. And Jordan Wheel was a guy that we everybody saw the way he the talent, the potential he had when he got traded here, and then thought if it could just equate. And then he had that really strong second half run the one year, and everybody thought all of a sudden, oh my goodness, he's part of the future. Look at this, right. Everybody bought into him, and he turned out to be another guy who was in and out of the lineup, bottom six, didn't fit into the bottom six that well. And guess what? In Montreal, where you wouldn't think he would have trouble getting into the lineup, he's having trouble getting into the lineup. He did not play in Game 4. And then, by the way,
I don't think Jordan Wheel is like a bona fide NHL player at this point.
Quite possibly not.
Yeah, I mean, it's proven.
No, but I think there's something
he's
to
not
say.
even on Montreal's team, and they were the 12 seed.
Right, and let's this way. And then I think you have one of Ron Hextall's worst moments as GM, the Dale Weiss contract.
Oh,
and there's another guy who is on this roster. I mean, because he signed with the Flyers in 2016, and then ironically enough, think about it as it's funny. It was a complete unloading trade shortly after Chuck Fletcher took over. By the way, it was in February of last year, and it's Weiss and Christian Folan. That's how they end up on that roster again. And it was David Schlemko, who was a buyout, and Byron Frazee, who was a
Lehigh Valley guy.
Lehigh Valley guy, and I don't even know if he's still with the team anymore.
I get the impression he was fairly decent when he was in Lehigh Valley.
Right.
But again, he's from Lehigh Valley. But in terms of Flyers that are former Canadians, is it just Nate Thompson?
I believe so. Here were some of the other connections I was going to have too.
Okay.
Not that he's going to play in the series. I don't know who would at this point in time. It's Carey Price or bust for Montreal anyway. It has been anyway. But they did take Caden Primo with them to the bubble, so and there's a little bit of a tie there. I mean, because he played locally too before he got drafted.
I think he would be their second choice. God forbid something happens to Price.
Would it be him or Lindgren?
I think they would.
Lindgren's got more of the experience, though. I mean, I don't know. Do they want to stick a 21-year-old in, or 21? He'll be 21 in 2 days. I mean, I'm really
everybody's
tired
birthday.
Of this. Yeah.
Something about goalies and being born in mid-August, apparently.
Yeah, I guess, right?
Maybe because you're the youngest in your year, so they just stick you at goalie. I don't know. But either way, I think they're high on Caden Primo as like their future starter. It wouldn't surprise me, like God forbid, knock on wood, anything happen to Carey Price. It wouldn't surprise me if they go with Caden Primo just to see what they have.
Right.
They're not really expecting to win this series. They're probably not expecting to go on much of a run. God forbid Carey Price goes down in game 2 or whatever. I think they give Caden Primo a shot to prove himself as a potential future starter.
It's funny you asked the question about like, are there any or any current Flyers who are former Canadians? I went to just look up and down the list really quick just to see if there was anybody we were overlooking.
It's a lot of homegrown Flyers.
Right. It's guys who
Is
have
that where
never
you were
played
going?
right. It's a lot of guys who have never played anywhere else anyway.
Right. Jake Voracek came from Columbus. I'm flipping through the lineup in my head here. JVR obviously went to Toronto for a while, but he started out as a Flyer.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, let's start with this. You know, you have the goalies, and obviously Brian Elliott's traveled, but other than that, you know,
Carter Hart's here, Alex Lyons here.
Right, but I was looking
even
at
Ustimenko if you go all the way down.
I was looking at the list of defensemen. Is there any other defense like you got Niskanen and Braun?
I mean,
Walensky's on the roster and he's traveled a little bit too.
Andy
but
Walensky's not playing.
He's not the guy who I'm saying. Other than Niskanen and Braun, everybody else is a homegrown talent.
Andy Walensky might be last on your defensive depth chart out of guys that they've brought to the bubble.
Right, and then you go. Then you go to the forwards, and like we said, Nate Thompson's definitely one, obviously, but and again, it kind of is. It's not nearly the same dynamic as the Chicago deal.
No.
Like Chicago's going in and playing a first-round series against Vegas, and literally traded their goalie.
Yeah,
to Vegas because they thought they weren't making the playoffs at the deadline, and now they're playing a first-round playoff series.
Chicago beating Edmonton. We're not going to be able to have the time to give Chicago and Edmonton enough love, but man, Chicago, that was fun.
But
yeah, the fact that Chicago now plays Vegas and that little goalie swap is crazy.
But the Nate Thompson for a 5th-round pick deal is the same thing. Montreal thought, hey, we're just getting another draft pick because it's a rental.
Because they were selling.
A deadline deal. They were selling them off. Okay, go. And Nate Thompson was a veteran player who wants that shot. You know, I don't know how many years Nate Thompson has left in the league, be honest, especially if they make a run.
He has certainly proven this year or in this last week or so, that he deserves to be here. He absolutely deserves the spot he's gotten on the team.
And he's the guy who 3 times in his career has been close. Conference finals, can't get there. You know, wants to get there. You know he wants to get there. And that was what the deal was for. The deal was, here's a couple teams that are making a charge at the deadline. Go and we'll sell them off for a draft pick, for another draft pick. I mean, the Flyers in Montreal have been trading 7th-round picks back and forth for years. Right? Like, it's kind of a thing. But nonetheless, I mean, here's a 5th-round pick. Of course, Montreal wants to stockpile the picks. They're fine with that. And they were fine with that in late February when they didn't think they were going to make the playoffs, obviously.
Right.
Now they're playing a first-round playoff series because Carey Price was on his game and everybody else got healthy.
We're expecting this series to start on Tuesday.
We're expecting it. Yeah, I don't know if there's any.
Nothing's confirmed.
Believe me,
give me a series prediction. Give me a series prediction
for the Flyers Canadians.
Yeah. And I know I just kind of dropped this on you, but you had to know we're predicting this series.
This is the one I want to tread so lightly on because it's like I don't want to say, because it's dangerous to get anticipate too much.
Flyers in 5.
I do think the Flyers win the series. I'm thinking 5 max out at 6. You know, Carey Price is going to be really good in a couple of games. Well, and here's the thing with Montreal, and this is where I'm going to go with this, and I'm going to write something on this probably for tomorrow, probably for Monday morning, around the same time the episode drops on Sports Talk Philly.
Sorry, that would be at Sports Talk Philly on Twitter.
Yeah, and I know, and I didn't write it down again either. I'm trying to keep the board. You know, at least you can read it better this time. I made it a little bigger this time. Let me see where I was going with this. Okay, so there's 2 things about this series for me, or where I'm thinking about this, or trying to go back to the season series is where I'm trying to go with this.
Right.
So 1, Montreal played the Flyers tough every game they played this year.
Definitely.
3 games, 2 of them required overtime, and the 3rd one they won clean.
Montreal
won clean.
They were fun games.
There's something that Alain Vigneault said something about the 3rd Montreal game. The Flyers had won the first 2 in overtime, and by the way, the first game on home ice, Sean Couturier wins it in overtime, but Carey Price was standing on his absolute head in that game. Trying to find a way to win that game and steal it from Montreal, and almost did. And then what's the goal that goes in? A distance shot from Couturier that leaked under his arm and rolled behind him, and that's the one that won.
Feels bad.
I mean, and then obviously, how can we forget
Ivan Provorov,
the goal of the year? The goal of the year for this team?
Oh, man. We might have to do that on a show here. I don't know if that's the goal of the year, but it's certainly up there. Sean Couturier with the one-hander in the shootout's up there.
See, I don't factor in shootouts, though. I look at it.
Fine. I get it. That's fair.
I don't think about that. So, if I'm thinking about a goal, like a legitimate goal, overtime or regulation, that's probably the goal for me.
Would a penalty shot count?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious.
It's a first through overtime goal. That's a different story.
I didn't know if it was that's not hockey. I got you. We're good.
Well, I mean, like, let's just say I didn't say it, but I was watching the Vegas Colorado game right before the Flyers Lightning game. That you're 15 seconds away from a shootout.
Yep.
Is that any way to decide the number one seed
in the West?
Like, that would have been the worst thing that could possibly happen. And thank you, Alex Tuck, for making a great shot and beating Philip Grubauer and winning beating the clock and winning that game in overtime.
Speaking of beating the clock, I do want to mention Nazem Kadri scoring with 0.1 seconds left in one of their qualifying games.
It didn't prove to be the impact that I thought it was going to be in the round robin, because the dynamic of it was huge at that time. That's the first round robin game, and you just won with 0.1 left.
That can flip
and
everything.
That separated 1 point for either team from 2-0.
Right.
Now Colorado gets 2, St. Louis gets 9, and St. Louis came in as the top seed.
It was looking like a 3-point game, and you snatched it. Yeah.
St. Louis came in as the top team in points percentage too. That knocked them off the top. That was right there. You can't get more than 4 points.
Nope.
Like, you're half a second away from
great. Not even half a second.
But
half of a tenth of a second.
Right. Insane.
It went in with less than 0.1.
So back to what I was saying about the Montreal thing for a minute. So they lose that game. They lose a game in Montreal 4-1, I think it was. And there's interesting parts to that game anyway, because one, Ilya Kovalchuk was still with Montreal at that time. So he scored twice, and he's not on the roster anymore, obviously. He's playing for Washington. So take that guy out of the picture.
They also traded away Ilya Kovalchuk at the deadline, by the way.
Again, because they didn't think they were going to be there. And nonetheless, so that happens. They score. And there was a question. Alain Vigneault was asked a question because this game came the night after they beat St. Louis in overtime. So you just beat 3 teams that at different points in time over the course of 8 days were the top team in the league. You lost to Tampa Bay 1-0 in a game that was decided on a fluky goal.
Thin, for sure.
No, but also decided on a fluky goal that Matt Niskanen bats the puck with his hand, but it lands the right way. And Patrick Maroon, of all people, scores the goal. Right? Otherwise, very tightly contested. And again, also a goaltending, duel and a showcase of here's Andrei Vasilevsky, the reigning Vezina winner.
And you know who matched him save for save?
Right. In that game, Carter Hart was right there with them.
And I think he's about to do it over 5 games with Carey Price.
But let's put it this way. Carter Hart against Tampa Bay, with the exception of that game, had gotten lit up in other games by them.
A little bit, yeah.
He had 3 starts, and his goals against was just shy of 4.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
But I'd be willing to bet I'd be willing to bet he watched all of those games about 10 times each during lockdown. Every save, every second. That's how he operates. He's got that kind of work.
He was invested in it, I'm sure. But a lot of the players, and I remember going around the locker room that night, and a lot of players said it's hard to come back out after a game like the St. Louis game and after the Boston game and after the Washington game the week before, and Montreal wasn't the best team, and we all knew it. And
it's hard to get up for it.
The motivation, the emotion of the game, it's harder to get up for it.
Absolutely.
And Alain Vigneault's quote when asked about it was, this is probably, and sometimes you get nothing. I mean, like, we could talk about John Tortorella after both losses in the Columbus-Toronto series and giving you Toronto was great, we sucked in one of them, and the other one was just 3 answers that didn't give you any information whatsoever.
Man, I didn't hear his presser after the second one, but oh baby, I'm sure that was a good one.
I didn't hear it at first either. I mean, I wanted to see it, but at the same time, here was the other thing. I saw media members going off on Twitter about it because they're going, let's put it this way. And to an extent, like, I don't like it when the media doesn't like what he like. This is his shtick or whatever to an extent.
He is.
Right. But at the same time, I'm going, you know what? We're all in a different situation now. We're doing this from a distance. We're trying our best here to do it without being there, without having the mood. Like, half of a story on that Toronto-Columbus game in a normal situation, if that happens in Toronto and Columbus, wherever Game 4 would have typically been, and let's say it's not a best of 5, let's move it up a little bit and say it's a Game 5 or a Game 6.
Let's say it's Game 6 in a best of 7. Yeah.
Right. So let's make it more of a normal situation.
Because it forces that elimination winner take all. I think that's the way to do it.
If you were to go in as a media member and step foot in that locker room afterwards, you're going to –
John Tortorella's going to tear your head off.
Well, no. I mean, now once the media's let in.
Right.
You're going to read the room. And you're going to see the emotion. You're going to see probably the frustration. You're going to see a lot of guys.
There's going to be certain questions you're not asking.
Well, not even that, but you're going to get some players and you're going to get the guys who are sitting there and want out as fast as possible, and
sure.
they're going to be pissed off, and they're going to have a look about them.
They're going to say, we play again. They're going to say, next game Sunday, and leave.
But you're going to read the room, and you can get the – because let's put it this way. Every time we go into the Flyers room this year after a win, like let's take the Boston game, with the shootout at home, right? All right, Marchand just –
Sorry, the Brad Marchand whiff game?
So,
what?
Yeah, so Brad Marchand just flubbed his shootout attempt and cost Boston a game on that one because, whatever.
Because it's the Flyers season, by the way. That's the kind of thing.
But you're going to see a feel-good attitude in there. The music's playing a little bit, and they turn it down when the interviews start, but the music's
all
playing.
Around.
Guys are joking around about some stuff. It's fun, right?
It's fun, right.
You lose a game like that, it's not going to be so fun. But you're going to read the room, and that can be half of your story. That this guy looked like this, and this one, the room cleared up pretty quickly. It was dead silent in here except for the guys giving interviews. That can be half of your story. We don't get that right now because we just, for
the access is just different.
But for all of the right reasons, health-wise,
for sure.
We're not given that. So we need to, let's just I tweeted a picture the other day. It was before the Tampa game. I think it was Friday. Alain Vigneault comes into the room. They just beat Washington. They're in a game battle for first place, right? He's all smiles. The audio is not even on the Zoom call yet. He's laughing and joking about something with whoever is physically in the room running that session because he's in that kind of mood that day.
How can you not be?
But that can be half of your story right there. Look at the mood that Alain Vigneault's in. He's all smiles today. I wonder why. Your team is battling for first place. You've already moved up 2 spots without even having to play the last game. I would be all smiles too. Obviously, but that can be part of the, that can be part of it. When somebody added it up, it was 23 total words. And I knew it was coming anyway because I saw the clip not the clip, but when
you saw the game.
Well, no, but I saw the time, the amount of time the clip was.
Okay.
If you got some substance, if it's all right, you got 2.5 minutes, you got 3 minutes, maybe. This was 1 minute and 20 seconds, and I knew part of it's the questions.
Yeah.
Part of it's we're going to go next
John,
to blank. Right. Hey, John, what happened or can you say this or whatever?
Right. At least 20, 25 of those seconds are media members. He talked for
maybe 10 seconds to give his answers.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, it was really,
Well, I think John Tortorella knows.
So
at a certain point, he just needs to shut up. And I think after that game, he was probably mad enough that he just needed to shut up.
They turned around and even said, then send an assistant in. And at least sending an assistant in will tell you,
that's fair.
I'm too pissed off to talk about this. I don't even want to deal with it. Right. And I will give you something, later. But regardless, beside the point with him, that type of series, like anything like – so Alain Vigneault gives you more substance in these press conferences usually, even if it's a loss. Right. All these players say it's, hard to get up for this game or whatever. Alain Vigneault's quote was, know that word that starts with a B? Every team is tough. You got to get up for every game. That's not an excuse. Boom. Right there. That's what tells me the Flyers are going to win this series because it's a 1-12. And you can play down to this team for a game or two. And you may win one, you may lose one. But if you lose one because you didn't take them seriously enough, that's the response you're going to get. That's the response you're going to get, which is, don't tell me you can't get up for this game. This is the playoffs. We either win or we go home. And I don't want to go home yet, From what I've seen so far, that won't be just from Alain Vigneault. That will be in the room. That will be – the players will say that to each other before Alain Vigneault has to say it to them. Alain Vigneault has done a phenomenal job, and I think there's a real chance he wins the Jack Adams. But I think the leadership core of this team is just as ready to go. It's really funny watching people, by the way, talk about a guy who is in the running for the Jack Adams also, who's not giving them much in terms of, of anything in the press conferences. A guy who a lot of people said, oh, he should win it because all the injuries, they still somehow made the playoff picture. Is this Mike, I might get fired, Sullivan? No. Oh, okay. This is still Tortorella. This is a guy he's in the right. No, because Sullivan wasn't even a finalist. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. But I'm saying, and now you got people in the media who vote on the award, ripping him for not talking after that game or for not giving you much because you're just trying to figure something out with it. Like, I understand it's going to be tough for John Tortorella to win any award that gets voted on by the media. I got to tell you something. I got to tell you something right now. watching that Game 4 press conference, I know just from the media background, and I'm not trying to say that listening to the others are going to be better per se, but I've watched every opponent's press conference too to get lineup information, to get whatever, and Bruce Cassidy is a decent guy to listen to. Todd Reardon doesn't do much for me for Washington, but he doesn't hide the information.
He's a little boring.
And John Cooper's a really good guy to listen to. Like, I really do like listening to John Cooper talk.
Yeah,
and he said some really glowing things about the Flyers, by the way.
I can't wait until he can get like an analyst job somewhere and just talk freely about hockey and tell us everything he knows, because like it's great listening to him talk.
By the way, just in.
Okay. This
Korpisalo,
is breaking news at 12:13 on Sunday afternoon.
Korpisalo starting Game 5 for Columbus.
I believe I called that in our group text. Did I not?
You did, and I'm a little surprised by it. But then again, like you know what? Your point was, I think you know what you're getting from him. And what you just saw from Elvis as the backup there.
That's certainly a setup to get shattered. We also don't have to preview this game because our listeners, this game will be over by the time.
Right. Well, it's not, and we're not going to preview it.
But we did get the news that Merzlikins is starting mid recording here, and
no, Korpisalo is.
Or I'm sorry, Merzlikins is not starting here.
Right.
And
where was I going to go with this? Because I wanted to say something else about this.
All right.
About
predictions that'll be out of date by the time the show goes live.
Yeah.
Who wins tonight?
I think
just top of the head. I'm going Toronto.
I am too.
Okay. So we'll see how silly we sound in about 8 hours.
So let me go back to the Alain Vigneault presser really quick, and then we'll start to wrap it up by looking at the other series really quick.
Yeah, because this round robin game is about to get underway here.
Right. There at one point in time, because Alain Vigneault said something again, like we watched. We were watching a Washington game. You're watching the Boston game. We think they look really good, and yet he'll come out there and tell you something about this is. Here it was, the very first question. This is only our third game in the restart, if you included the exhibition.
Right.
So I believe we're on the right track, but we're not quite there yet. And I don't think he's going to come out of the Tampa game going, we're there yet.
He's not going to come out and go, yep, we're perfect. No more practice.
No, he doesn't have any. He never does this with anything, and that's it's like the fact that you still have that motivating factor. We're not there yet. And now you're playing a series against the 12 seed.
Alain Vigneault has a pretty good history.
He does.
Especially in the first year of his coaching tenure.
It's worked wonders in Philadelphia, that's for sure.
I believe he has an Eastern Conference or a conference finals appearance and a cup appearance, if I'm recalling that correctly.
I think the first year in Vancouver was the cup or was the conference final. No, it was the conference final. And then the next year they were not only were they cup final appearance, but it was President's Trophy. They were everything.
They were good, yeah.
I mean, they were really good. And then with the Rangers, they were not the top team by any stretch in the conference, but they were. It was his first year was a cup final appearance.
Right.
Well then. Enough. So.
Certainly backs up my claim from earlier in the show. It seems like once he's gone to the Eastern Conference or gone to the conference finals, and then the next time he went to the Cup finals.
Yeah.
So third time around, what do you think is going to happen? Where does that graph go if the graph is going up?
Don't even.
Because I said it earlier in the show, and I think the Philadelphia Flyers are going to win the 2020 Stanley Cup. And that, I think, is a pretty good place to leave this one. What do you say?
I think so. I mean, a lot of great series. Obviously, we talked a little bit about a couple of the other ones in the East. The West, we can get into more over the course of the time. I mean,
yeah, and we'll get you to tweet out maybe some predictions before.
Oh,
Tuesday.
I will before the first round. I will, and let's just say I'm gonna have to. I gave you a vague answer on the Flyers Canadian series. I'll have to give you a firm one.
Okay, you got 5 or 6. I'll give you a little bit.
Well,
of time
and here's the thing. I gave you the important prediction, which
Definitely.
is I think they win the series. I think they should win the series. I don't see why they wouldn't.
And they win it relatively comfortably.
You know what? And I tried to say that. I think I said this in a couple of different settings because we did this before. I got asked this on my spot. I think we talked about it in the group. We knew going into Saturday was who would you rather see them play? What's the better matchup?
Montreal.
Is it Montreal? Is it Toronto? Is it Columbus? Whatever. And my answer kind of is, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Of the 3. If they play those games the way they played the round robin games, they can win 4 out of 7 times.
They can win 4 out of 5 against all 3 of those teams.
John Cooper had a great quote after the game last night when he did his media availability for Tampa. At one point in time, he sat there and he said something about at some point he said something about either obviously they're playing really well or something like that. And he goes, I don't even remember. He goes, I don't remember the last time they lost. Like he said, and now granted, We
Boston
all
right
do.
before the
Boston
pause.
right before the pause.
But other than that game, they had won 9 straight. So like,
I think his point is that obviously there's no team since, I mean, even Carolina, who swept their series, lost their exhibition. There's only one other team, I think. I mean, did Vegas
win their exhibition?
I don't remember. But regardless, like, there's not many teams that can sit there and go, since they came back, win, like right through. Like, it was
right up like where they left off.
Right. And that's, I think, the thing. The fact that they've picked up where they left off so convincingly. And I mean, I don't think they played a perfect game on Saturday, but they did get the job done. And we said it from the beginning. Round robin, all they had to do, the simple equation was, you're the 4 seed. You win 3 games, you're the 1 seed. And what they do, they went out and they won all 3.
The Flyers picked up where they left off, and we will pick up where we are leaving off next week.
That sounds great.
We will be back next Sunday while my cat climbs the wall behind me. We will
hopefully we'll have a schedule soon. And
we will have a schedule soon. We will be at least 3 games deep probably by next Sunday.
Well, so question before we actually wrap it up then.
Okay.
If we record on Sunday, when we get a schedule, showtime to be determined possibly?
We're flying by the seat of our pants here. If the opportunity presents itself for another live show, I think another live show makes a lot of sense.
I will say I'm very interested to see the dynamic of this first round schedule, because the qualifiers mixed with the round robins, 5 or 6 games a day, was awesome.
Absolutely.
I'm curious to see if they decide to put 3 games on a same day in the same building.
We'll see. No, probably 2.
Well, because exactly, they cut down the number of teams, so I'm wondering if they go
that should help some ice conditions.
I'm wondering if they just say only 4 of you are playing on the same day, and the other
4
are getting
4 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock, call it a day,
and slowly get away from that back-to-back thing where here we have to get 3 in at one time.
And I think they're going to do that. And like you said, we'll be getting a schedule, maybe Sunday night, almost definitely Monday morning, and on Tuesday. Flyers start
might be go time
for real, legitimately for real.
Right. I mean, it won't be any later than Wednesday for sure. So Tuesday or Wednesday, they will play a game.
Obviously, we know a lot of our fans will be watching the game, but we would like to invite you to follow us along on Twitter at YWT Podcast. We're always there tweeting. Kevin's got the plugs up. If you're watching on our YouTube channel, we don't have the URL for that yet, but if you search YWT Podcast, we pop right up there. Don't forget to follow Kevin at Kevin_Durso. Right, don't forget to follow the show on at Sports Talk Philly and at Flyerdelphia, which he doesn't have up there.
Not on there.
But other than that, we're going to get out of here this week. And 2 days. Go Flyers. Flyers for the cup. Take care, guys.